A lot of times I think people start from the bottom. I'm starting with the leaders. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to be a really controversial, but hang with me. We see a lot of leadership and EQ quotes, and those things go viral all over LinkedIn. For a company that's trying to outpace another company, or an individual who does not know how to use their brain, I always say AI should be the exoskeleton that you put meat and muscle on. Market yourself in a way where AI cannot take your job.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, my guest today is a good one, an OG from LinkedIn. I've known this dude for a long time. He is on a mission, Jahmaal Marshall, to transform how we work, not just tweak it. He is a corporate wellness advocate, certified mental health practitioner, and the founder of Listen, Then Speak. He spent over 12 years helping executives, tech leaders, and HR pros and business owners not just survive burnout, but come out strong on the other side. Through his top-ranked podcast and consulting work, Jamal equips high performers with tools to reduce stress, sharpen focus, and reclaim their energy, all while driving real, measurable business results. But there's more. He's not about corporate platitudes. He's about personal transformation, turning exhausted teams into present, purpose-driven people. We have a lot to get into. Let's unpack it. Jahmaal Marshall, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Adam, thanks for having me, bro.
That's how we do it. Long time in the making. We're going to chop it up here. But first, my audience needs to meet you. They need to know a little bit more. And I do not know this. If you don't mind me asking, we need to get to the origin story. Do you mind me asking, what did your parents do for a living? Or what do they do for a living?
Got it. Okay, so I have to knock off one. So my dad was a roofing constructor. So they're originally from Washington, D.C. I, myself, and my youngest sibling are from California. So this is not where I was originally from. My father was working in construction, and my grandmother was very successful in real estate. She lived in California, so she said, hey, I have some jobs for you out here. Boom. They up jumped and moved to California. My mom was a government worker. She worked for TRW and GAO, General Accounting Office, so she could work anywhere. And so that's what she did. So she was primarily always a government worker. She recently worked at Edward Jones, which is financial advisor. She's not a financial advisor, but she assists them. So that's what they did. So I grew up in a traditional, go to college, do your 9 to 5. So that's what I was taught. That's what the mentality that was instilled inside of me. So that's going to play into a little bit of my story.
Yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit too. It's interesting too. And specifically with your mom, do you recall even when you were younger, like her talking about work or talking about her job or things she liked and didn't like about her job? Like, were there any of those roots planted early on?
No, man, I was the one thing about it was different. Like my dad was a roofing constructor. So obviously when you're working outside, either in the elements or in extreme heat, he would say more about not so much what he didn't like, but like, man, we bust our tails today, but this
was a windy day.
My mom was a government worker, so she was really good at compartmentalizing. Like when she was home, she was helping us with homework, cooking dinner, this, that, and the fourth. So she didn't really bring work home with her. And you got to think this was the late 80s, early 90s. So
different mentality.
I didn't hear much from work about work from her.
Oh my God. I mean, we could just riff for hours on like the difference of both my parents are New York City Board of Ed teachers. They busted their ass. They drove far to get to work. They really put everything into it. And now everyone I think it's social media, man. Like now that we have a platform to complain about it and we made it more culturally acceptable and all this other stuff. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. I want to focus more on your career. This is interesting, man. How did you go from working with prisons and the church and justice into coaching? This isn't an open invitation for your elevator pitch, but let's get into this, man. Like I applaud you for that. Wifey and I, we volunteer. We've done some work in prisons, which is pretty cool, with a group called Defy Ventures. So I've experienced in that too. And it's eye-opening when you go in there and you have this perception of what incarcerated folks look like and think like, but they're just like us. And I'm not talking about the mass murderers. I'm talking about everyday people who have fucked up and made a mistake. And you know what? They're doing their time. They're paying for their crime. They're doing it. But the justice system is fucked, man. Give us your take. How'd you get there? How'd you get there?
let's talk about that. So obviously,
Please.
like some of the people, and I can't say all of other people on your podcast because I've listened to your podcast for a while now, but my career has been anything but linear.
Mm.
And so I started off obviously as a teenager. I was a janitor. You know, I've worked since I was 13. I wasn't one of those kids who just
Yeah,
settled
man.
down like living off their parents.
Love it.
And then I found a pool in Northern Virginia because we were here in DC, and I said, okay, I'll be a lifeguard. I can swim. I swim really well. And about around 17 years old, I was at this meeting at my church back then in Reston, and my pastor had his 50th birthday party. For some reason, I was compelled to get up and say some stuff about him.
Mm.
And this couple was there that night, and we saw each other Sunday, and they said, "Hey." So the lady, her name was Linda Wine Smith, a
Shout out.
Southern girl. She said, "So what do you want to do?" I said, "Man, I can't wait to work at Best Buy." I was really pressed to like throw
Remember
those
when Best Buy was cool? Remember when
Best
Best
Buy
Buy?
used to be
I
like
used
the
to love just
spot.
walking around Best Buy and playing with shit, like
Yeah,
speakers, a high end. Like I go in that audio room and I just
yeah.
crank everything to 12.
That's what I wanted to do, bro. I wanted to just show people computers all day and show people like mad appliances. And so this lady,
Mad
she's from like the
appliances.
deep south, and so she said, "Well, you're really bright, and I don't see that for you. So I work at the Department of Justice. Why don't you give me your transcript?" So I
Mm.
was just starting college. I got in my transcript. She said,
Hmm.
You're a straight A student." So they brought me in for an interview. Mind you, I used to be a lifeguard. So I come in there with braids, cornrows. I'm just like, whatever. And it's this big panel interview with all these government bigwigs. They're probably looking at
Uh-oh.
me like, who is this dude? And she's like, no, no, no. He's a beast and a half. I'm telling
Wait,
you, he
wait till
can
he
run this
opens his
place.
mouth.
Yeah. So I do the interview. I know she pulls some strings. And next thing you know, I'm an 18-year-old in the government, only black dude on the director's floor.
Jeez. Somehow you
Yeah.
got your way in there.
And so that's how I started. I was a psychology major, started at PG Community College and transferred to Regent University. Um, and at first, I was really just doing the work to do the work. And then I started studying like the legal system, the prison system. And, we worked side by side with public affairs. So I
Hmm.
learned a lot about like, oh, dude, this is how we reduce recidivism. And
Hmm.
this is prison overcrowding and all sorts of. My job was a little different. I have to be careful how I say this as a legal matter, but I took the position of Chandra Levy. And I don't know if you remember that case, but she was the intern that, you know,
Yeah.
got killed and so like
Yeah.
and
Mm.
like Jamal, that office is cursed. I was like, okay.
Mm.
So, but I try not to focus on that. I just was, and what I heard, the funny thing is we did some publication work, and they were going to have all these big wigs there coming the next day. I actually stayed 2 hours long to make sure it got done.
Hmm.
And I remember the director coming to me saying, "That's how you get ahead." But it was weird that put inside of me a mentality of like always being the first to get there and the last to leave. And that would follow me for years throughout my professional career, like always
But
being the one who had to be excellent at everything.
yeah, pause on that for a second there, right? Like I remember for first in, last out, right?
Hmm.
And I would always push back on that too, because that was kind of the mentality, when I started working in the early 2000s too. It's like when people were in an office, right? You wanted visibility.
Hmm.
But then I started to learn also it's about your impact when you're there. And then we saw the people that would just come in early and sit around for optics and they weren't doing shit and the performance was poor. And I'm like, well, that really doesn't matter as much. It's what you do during those hours. But then they have folks like you who are staying and are busting their ass because that is how you get ahead. Hard work still wins.
I'm glad somebody said it
Yeah,
because
that's
that
how I do
goes
it.
against this kind of late millennial Gen Z thing of I don't have to do anything and I can come on a job in 3 months if somebody looks at me wrong, then it's a toxic workplace. It's like, no, you just need to grow up.
Right,
Yeah, I said it.
right. Like what happened? Oh man, let's riff on this for a second here, man. Like, because it kind of, dude, you and I are now the old men in the room, right? I don't know how old you are, right? I'm 46. Okay, so, but you're still over 40, so we're gonna call it like we had a different mentality. And I'm not saying Gen Zs don't work as hard because I've seen some Gen Zs that are just crushing it right now.
Oh yeah.
But there's this thing where it's like the 4-day work week and like, work from anywhere. And I could just be, in Mykonos. And that's not, you gotta put in the work, especially early on in your career. You gotta have that work discipline. You gotta build up that work muscle, that work ethic. And what happened to proving yourself?
I think you mentioned it a few minutes ago. Like once we got to the place where like everyone that has a TikTok now
Mm.
is all of a sudden a leader and an influencer. And you have to be careful who's on your mic because I mean, I work in human behavior. I've been doing
Yeah.
it 12 plus years, 16 plus years in total. And a lot of people who are influencing folk are very broken. They still haven't worked through their own process. They haven't
No.
worked through their own subconscious mind and the things they've gone through. And so their words are spirit, and their words are going out into these airways, and people are like, yeah, I can do that too. And it's just like, it's not so much who you listen to, but it's how you execute.
Mm.
I determined 4 years ago, even when I was starting to be active on LinkedIn, am I going to listen to said influencer that's saying, hey, this is toxic, quit your job? And hey, you have a silver spoon in your mouth, or you have a very rich spouse, husband or wife that can take care of you. Hey, listen, all the weight, the financial weight sits with me. And so I have to be careful how I execute. And so
Mm.
I just want to say that to folks who are really involved in social media. It's not so much what a person says, but it's how you execute. And you need to determine for yourself, with what I have, what do I do with what they said? You can chew up the meat and spit out the bones. And there's a lot of bones today. Be careful who you listen to.
Clip that, post that. Social media 101 here with Jahmaal Marshall. It's a, I think that, just generally speaking, that the influencer world is toxic to begin with, because people look around, they see everyone getting quote unquote internet famous real quick. But is it sizzle or steak, right? Is it all sizzle? Do they have the receipts, right? Have they done there? Have they worked there? And they don't. They just try to take advantage of these opportunities that are these, viral moments to go out there and talk about these triggering moments, whether it be, quiet quitting, toxic workplaces. But let's keep it real here. You got to put in the time. You don't know what a toxic. You've only worked at one place, and you don't even go into an office. Not to say that a toxic workplace can't be remote. I'm not saying that at all. There are, toxic attributes that transcend in office versus remote. Don't get me wrong on that, but just be careful who you get your information from. So I want to bring this back to center here and talking about your story. The church, man, the church has played an incredible part of your life and your career. So how did you go from the justice back into the church?
Yeah, so it was strange. Like around 2009, I was what you call a co-op, and so what they're doing, I don't like to use the G word, especially because my last corporate job was in like anti-human trafficking, but like they're grooming you to become a full-time employee. Something happened in HR with my paperwork, which was really strange, and it didn't get where it needed to get in time.
Hmm.
And so I got in the highest position I could get, and seemingly once I graduated, I worked myself out of a job, and they couldn't find, like, it was either the option of go into the prisons to like work, and I never wanted to be a correctional officer. I wanted to be like a DTS. My job was to be, it was weird, this is going to sound so strange, I wanted to be a drug treatment specialist and get every inmate off psychotropic meds. Super illegal, don't do
Hmm.
that. But I had this thing about psychotropic meds back then, because I was still training in the clinical and didn't understand enough about how that works and how it
Hmm.
really helps the mind. And so I realized around that time, even like most people don't, anyone who knows my story knows my dad was my best friend before he died. For the last 12 years, we were thick as thieves. He's passed away now, but the first 22 years was hell on earth with him. And I was always told, you're going to help thousands, maybe even millions of
Hmm.
people. But I needed help myself. I still had a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, a lot of rage.
You had shit
I
to
had
work
my
through.
own addictions. And so, I had this outward veneer of like, man, Jamal's so excellent in all things, but like most people didn't know, like internally, outwardly I was crushing it, but internally I was
Like, is he
dying.
practicing what he's preaching? But you knew you weren't.
No, I knew I
And
wasn't.
how
I
could you
knew
be
it was
authentic to your true self if you're not practicing what you're preaching?
exactly. And so I found in the Midwest, it's like, some inpatient counseling. And after the job was over with the government, it was strange. They threw me like this huge going away. The director of not our floor, I mean, the director of the whole United States Bureau of Prisons, DOJ, came to my going away. They said, man, you
Hmm.
must be special if you got
They,
him
mu-
to
they, mu-
come.
they must like me.
Yeah, man. But like they still couldn't keep me. And there were opportunities here and there, but it's nothing that I wanted to bite on. By that time, I was 24, and I developed convictions of like, I think I know what I want to do. And so when I went away for 13 months, I invested in a lot of brain work, counseling. I mean, just
Hmm.
really dealing with the root causes. Like you hear me say that, but it's like, it's nothing that I ask my clients to go through that I haven't gone through myself. It's no investment I have people make that I haven't made. I've gone through the ringer to take the
Done
guesswork
it.
out to my clients.
You've done it.
Like I tell you, I'm not
But
one of those
that's,
COVID coaches that says, hey, I became a coach in 2020
oh
and
man,
all of a sudden I want you to listen to me. Like, no, I've been
don't.
doing this for years. I'm not new to this. I'm
No,
true to
this
this.
is who,
Uh,
I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. Let that one sink in. Anyone out there, when you're evaluating coaches too, has this person walked in your shoes before? Have they had the life experience, similar life experiences, so they could talk to you from a place of truth and not just fabrication, what they think it's going to be, right? And that's not to say all drug counselors have been drug addicts. Don't get me wrong on that. Like if I'm using an extreme example there. So I kind of see where you're going with this one. You're building it up there, but when was that decision to really double down and pivot into your true calling, which is real coaching?
Right. So after I went through this inpatient counseling, I did a 6 month internship. So that's 13 month like intensive. And then they put me in administration. So it's weird. I left DOJ and then ended up back in administration. So I started working e-commerce and website quality control. Boring for me. But it was just I learned how to, work the back end of a store, e-commerce. And then they started me doing like prison correspondence. And then they started me going in and actually teaching prisoners. And
Mm,
that's when I like you, was like, oh, this is just a little city in here of regular people who just wear orange or tan or blue,
mm,
who in a in any given circumstances, I could have been these people. I was there for about 2.5 years, and then they decided, the CEO said, you're more equipped for actual counseling and facilitation. And so for the better part of those 2 years while I was there, they were training me in the clinical. And so I was doing practicum, and I was training, even though I'd already had a degree in
mm-hmm.
counseling and psychology, I started actually training in it. And I was just like, oh, and then training
Practitioner.
in the clinical and training, I learned more about like psychotropic meds and just even working with a person's clinician.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so involved, all the training that I had gone through. In 2013, that's when they said, okay, now we're moving you over to the counseling department. That's where we need you. And so that's when I really started going into like my calling. And at that time, my clientele looked very different from what it looks like now. I had like all
That,
white males. I mean, pretty much I had like,
yeah,
and they were
we're a
all,
fucked up bunch, man. We got issues.
oh man.
We
Oh,
got deep dark. But let
yeah.
me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because the prison system is something that's fascinating to me. From your
Before,
take, what is one massive misconception that folks on the outside have about folks on the inside?
I think that somehow I'm just going to come out and say it, bro, that they're not human. That somehow if you're behind bars, you are stripped of humanity, you are stripped of a soul, and somehow you, even though they don't know the stories of these people, you did something so bad that I and my self-righteousness cannot be in the same room and breathe the same air as you. It's like when you hear a person's story, one, at least 40%, 30 to 40% of the people there are falsely accused. Two,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like more of the sexual stuff, guys were writing to somebody and it's like, oh, they were posing as a 16-year-old girl. It's like, oh, so that's, you want to write to a 16-year-old girl? We got you. It's just any number of things happen that land a person behind bars. And so I think that's the number one misconception, that
Yeah.
somehow they're not human.
The amount of, I think I've been four times. The amount of, once you get through the past the walls and you pass the security and all those things that scare you as a human, and you start to feel a little bit safer there. I mean, you can't let your guard down always when you're visiting, but once you realize and you're sitting across from an inmate that they're not an inmate, they're an incarcerated human. They're incarcerated. They're a person just like you, and they made that one mistake. And you start to connect with them one on one, and you start to see the person behind the jumpsuits, and their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers that just screwed up and they did one thing wrong, couple things wrong. And you start to hear their story, and then you start to hear about their day to day, and then you start to hear how much creativity and innovation and passion they have for when they come out and how they want to change their lives and they don't want to go back. That's when you realize how much you could help them, right? That's how much you realize that you could relate to them. Say,
Mm-hmm.
they're just a human just like me. They just did one thing and got caught for it. All of us have done shit we should have gotten caught for. Let's keep it real here, folks.
Come on now.
Most of us have done some dumbass shit in our life, right? That probably could lock us up. I'm not saying I killed anybody, robbed a bank, but we've all done some stuff here. So do you miss that world?
Sometimes, and I mean, like, I want to just encourage anybody who's thinking about going in there. If you're going into a maximum security prison, it's maximum security for a reason.
Right.
So,
And let me just preface this: we do medium security prisons, and we're working with folks through Defy Ventures who are eligible to be released within the next few years. That's what that
yeah,
program does. So we're working with people who have the motivation to get out.
that's it.
And this helps them. It's a Baylor University accredited program. We work with them. It's like a Shark Tank kind of incubator. And I've seen the results firsthand, and it's incredible. This one lady, when we met her inside, she had the idea of a female-only plumbing company. The whole idea was to really, if you're a woman, a single woman, or an older elderly woman living at home alone, when a plumber comes, that could be a little bit intimidating. But what if a woman showed up who was super qualified and knew what she was doing. And then she gets out, and I'm at a post-release event in the city. And this lady walks in, and she's standing there. I'm talking to her, and I go to stick my hand out and introduce myself. She's like, Adam, you were sitting across from me. You helped me get this idea to life, and now I launched a company. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. And she launched this company. She launched a women's own plumbing company up in New England, and she's thriving. And I saw the results of this firsthand. And that's, for me, was everything, to see the full cycle of someone have an idea. We helped them incubate it, and they came out, and now they're thriving. She ain't going back.
That's what I call impact, you know. And I think the biggest thing is, for those who are even thinking about this is a little off topic for what we're talking about.
It's all good.
Be consistent. Don't come in there one time around Christmas. You know me, Adam. I can't stand LinkedIn during Christmas time because everybody's got their good deeds. Oh, I went to a homeless shelter. I went to prison. I went to.
We're collecting gifts for.
Yeah, it's just
battered squirrels.
There's an ancient scripture that says, "Don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing." We don't care. Just do it, and don't exploit that person's brokenness for your own.
It's called virtual signaling. It's called virtual signaling.
I don't mind saying it. I'm coming here to snatch everybody's wig. I don't even go on LinkedIn during December because I'm just the virtue signaling just kills me.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna be away Christmas week. I'm gonna shut LinkedIn off. I'm gonna schedule a few posts, and that's it. I'm out of here. You post and promote some podcasts, and then I'm out. My wife catches me sitting on the beach looking at LinkedIn. She's like, "What the hell's wrong with you? You're in paradise, man. What the fuck are you doing right now? Get off your phone."
I encourage that, like for my own clients. You don't want to go too far off topic here, but I love the fact that, because your clients watch you. You know, some of my clients don't comment on anything. They just lurk. They say, I love the fact that when you go on vacation, you don't post. People say, I go on vacation, I post the whole time. I'm like, you didn't go on vacation. That's work.
You're still tethered to the device.
Yeah. So if I'm talking about, we're going against burnout, stress, anxiety,
we're going to get there.
This is an addiction.
It is.
So
it's a dopamine addiction.
If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook during your vacation time, you are not present. And it is a belief in your subconscious mind that has locked you and tethered you to that device. You need to deal with that. That doesn't mean you're hustling and you're winning. No, you're actually losing. Yes, I said it.
He said, so let me ask you this. What's one non-negotiable habit that you've added to your daily routine to protect your inner peace?
When I'm offline, I'm offline. And that's a non-negotiable. And I know that for me, like, I wake up at 4:45. For y'all 4 a.m.ers and 3:30 people, God bless you all. I can't get up until 4:45.
Jeez.
But 10:30, 10:45, we shut it down. You know, at least
device is off.
Yeah, everything's off, because it's like, one, I'm in the middle of a weight loss journey. I hold myself accountable for your audience. And, you know, the first thing a trainer asks you, they don't ask you about your diet. They say, how much sleep do you get? And I'm like, what? Sleep is a huge. If you see anyone with a brick house body, it's made in the bedroom and in the kitchen. And so for me, my body needs rest. You know, and if even in light of what I do, you know, dealing with the subconscious mind and brain neuroplasticity, I have to have a healthy mind. And so that's one of my non-negotiables. And like, once I'm done, you know, in a sense, with my hour and a half on LinkedIn, and of course, you know, we got to do the outbound strategy and the DMs, then I'm done. You know, I don't stick around because it's like, it's not generating revenue. It's just generating more stress.
I say this all the time. People are like, Adam, you're on LinkedIn all the time. I'm like, don't forget I'm a recruiter. Like, that's my workplace. That's why I'm engaging all day long, because I have 4 LinkedIn screens open in front of me. But I'm an anomaly. I look around at the people. You ever look around on LinkedIn, and we're digressing, and you're like, what the hell do you do for a living? You're literally commenting all day long. Go find a job. Go work. If your boss sees this shit, they're going to be pissed. It's like,
bro, but it's even people who run their own business, you know, like, of course, we know, you know, for me, I've a safe place for not only career people, but also influencers and entrepreneurs. A lot is not what it seems. And people who may get the 400 likes per post, they're just on LinkedIn all day. But it's just like, are you actually dealing with clients?
Are you making money?
20 likes per post and are clearing $300,000 contracts regularly. So a lot of times when a person's not on LinkedIn, too much, unless they're a recruiter in talent acquisition, I'm happy, because it lets me know they're handling their business.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this: what was that moment, your listen, then speak moment, that led to founding your company?
Oh man, we're finally getting into it. And so
that's how the show works.
Around 2018,
I told you.
2018 was the year where I questioned everything about myself. I had, in 2017, resigned from. I was one of 3 senior counselors. I was also coordinating a remote program, and I was doing public speaking. So I was in a state of flow of like who I really am. I began to, you know, to really grow into my calling. My dad started getting sick in January of 2017. He had a major stroke. So I started, one of my clients whose dad took a liking to me was a pilot, and he was always giving me these standby flight, tickets. So I was living in two different worlds. I was living in the Midwest, and I was coming here to DC, and I just started to think like, yeah, I think I need to be back in DC. Not to mention, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We talked
It's
about
okay.
toxic workplace. I was, I love the work that I did. I didn't always love who I worked for. So a CEO was a bit of a
Big
narcissist
distinction.
and a bit demanding. And we had half of our staff leave in 2015. And so, of course, that left a lot of work for those of us that remained. And I was still kind of running at breakneck speed. And so I said, yeah, it's time for me to resign. And I started, knowing how to, advocate for myself, how to manage up and manage down,
Big point.
because I had a lot on my caseload. And so when I resigned, again, I was blessed coming in, blessed going out. I got back here 2.5 months later. My dad passed. He was critically ill. As soon
Sorry.
as I get back, he dies, goes home to be with God. I hate God. I hate Jesus. I hate the gospel. I hate all of it. And so I would go out to this tennis court, which is about 2 miles from where I live at, and I would just drop F bombs all day. That's all I knew to say. That's all I knew to pray. That was my prayer life. And I thought to myself, man, these people in this residential neighborhood must think I'm crazy. I'm just out here like beep, just dropping it. And I looked and I noticed that we have over here in DC 4 Civil War forts, nothing but forests. And I said, you know what? Deer and foxes and wild turkey don't speak English. I'll just go in there and drop some F bombs.
Yeah, they're not going to
And
complain.
being enclosed in nature in the beautiful spring was like, well, this is weird. So over time, it took the better part of 8 or 9 months. I went from profanity to prayer. And for like a minute and a half, like I was just in there praying, and I got in some deeper roots with God. It didn't bring my dad back, but it gave me perspective in the midst of the very heavy, visceral loss for me. And I would have thoughts for a minute and a half. I knew nothing about social media. For 34 plus years of my life, I lived off the grid, but I did have a LinkedIn. I started working at a place called International Justice Mission, which is anti-human trafficking. So back in some form of law enforcement. And I would just started posting these videos before the pandemic on a platform called LinkedIn. I had no idea people were watching my stuff because I knew nothing about algorithms, nothing about likes, comments, didn't know nothing. And this group called the Safety Justice League saw a comment. It was a guy by the name of Mark Metry. He was a podcaster.
Yeah.
I left a comment on his post, which was back then completely ignored by him. He didn't know who I was. Now we're like first connections, and we'll DM sometimes. And they said, we saw your comment. We want to bring you on our podcast. I was like, for what? I was like, no, we want to interview. We've been watching your videos. I do that video. I do that interview with them. There's a group in Columbia, Pennsylvania, and they said, we heard your interview, and you are a natural. Because the girl, it was 3 guys and a girl. The girl, Abby Ferry, said, are you a podcaster? And I said, no, I don't really get down like that. She said, you should be. She says, you're the one of the few guests that was interviewed by us, but also interviewed us. And the group in PA said, we're going to send you $2,000. We want you to buy yourself a MacBook Pro, and we're going to sponsor you a web space. That's where Listen and Speak was born. And so at first, I was literally just like, all right, okay, what do I do with this? I'm working a full-time job.
How do I do it?
Listen and Speak Week, we're getting the wheels turning. And I keep dropping these videos, and next thing you know, I didn't know what an inbound lead was, but people were coming to my DMs and saying, hey, do you like some sort of advisor, a mentor, a counselor? I was like, well, I'm certified in that. But at that time, my mentality was my dad died, so that died with dad. And they were like, I need your help. And so I was like, okay. So I had to develop, like, how do I then start doing this again? And then taking 2 clients that way. June of 2021 is when I got the LLC and established like Listen and Speak as a business, and then went through the whole legality of it, combined everything with the website, and
now you're an owner.
Kept coming.
Now you're a business owner.
Yeah. LinkedIn reaches out to me. They start the accelerator with the Creative Accelerator. That gives more visibility. I kind of niched down on my message, and then through there, Mita Malik was in my cohort.
Oh, I love Mita Malik.
People. So I started taking, like, they were corporate people. They came on my podcast. And they were like, man, you're an excellent way of pulling out information that other people don't. You understand human behavior. Can you come to my organization and do like some firesides and some work? So I started doing some consulting work. And then they said, we want you one-on-one. So That's when the corporate contracts
Let's
start coming.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyzed a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. That's an organic path that ties directly to your purpose, your mission, and who you are. Do you love it, man? Do you love what you do right now?
I love what I do. I know what I'm supposed to do.
If you could say that, and anyone out there, man, if you could say that, listen, not everyone loves their job. Some jobs just got to get done and people got to do those jobs, right? But when you're able to find that intersection, right, of what you love, what your passion is, I mean, that's really what it's all about. I mean, it took me 8 years till I got to the point of being my own business owner when I realized I couldn't work for anybody else, that I need to be my own boss, that I need to chart on my own path. But it was also something it brought out in me, Jamal, that was the drive. I've always had that drive in me, but until you own your own business and you got to go kill what you eat because otherwise you're not eating, that's a motivation too. Where you got to make money. So let's get back on track here. Something you talk a lot about is burnout in tech, right? Like burnout, and it's popular for a reason because burnout is real. I also think there's an interesting line, and this might be a little controversial too, where people might say they're burnt out, but they may not just be accustomed to hard work to do what they need to do to get it done. They haven't experienced it yet. I think there's a fine line there. I think it's kind of like one of those things like imposter syndrome, which I think is bullshit for a lot of people. I think people just say it. Kind of along the lines when I have this thing when people like self-diagnose ADD or OCD, like I saw that eye roll. For anyone listening at home, I just saw an eye roll that's memeable right there on that one. That was a memeable eye roll. But burnout can be real. There's people that put in the time. They're overworked. Companies are under-resourced, right? They're understaffed there, and that's what causes burnout too. But do you think, why do you think among tech leaders and HR execs, it goes unspoken until it's too late? That's a problem, right? When it gets to the point of being too late, what's the root cause of that, and how do we prevent that?
Yeah,
sorry for my
some
rant.
Of it are like
my show. I get the rant. Your show, you get the rant.
Yeah, I love this question because a lot of it, when you think about where the economy is right now in 2025. It's a good part of it that's out of the control of the senior leader, middle manager, VP. And there's a lot of it that is in control. Like you mentioned some buzzwords that we are just kind of like, come on now. I want to mention a buzzword that is non-existent. I'm going to say something really controversial, but stay with me. Work-life balance is non-existent. There is no such as work-life balance. What I like to tell my clients is develop work-life rhythms, nuance to the season that you're in. I started off with all white males as my clients.
I call it harmony, man. I call it harmony.
Yeah. Now 30% of my clients are males. About 60% of my clients are females. And so if you think about a male who is maybe 37 years old, he can get up, go to the gym, get on his bike, drink Shilajit, and head to his job. You think of a female who's like maybe 35 years old or maybe in her 40s who's nursing an infant, who's been up 2, 3, 4 in the morning. She has a completely different rhythm than he does. And so, or somebody who's grieving a loved one who's lost a parent. And so we have to get to the place where what are my rhythms? To go back to your question about burnout, when it comes to these, especially in HR and tech, one, without HR, you don't have tech. HR, you need talent acquisition to staff these agencies. You need policies to actually keep people. You need policies to bring people in and to keep them there. And then when you have these tech leaders, you think about the advent of AI. AI is not going anywhere, people. That train is a juggernaut.
Get on the train, or you're not making the next stop.
But innovation, unfortunately, right now is outpacing humanity. And a lot of these companies, though well-meaning, are like, okay, we got to keep up with what fintech is doing. We got to keep up with what Google is doing. We got to keep up with what Comcast is doing. And so you're literally driving your bottom line crazy. And if you think about tech, even culturally, most tech people don't look like you, bro. They look Middle Eastern. These are and so the cultural disconnect and even how to communicate with a person that's redemptive, how to build morale. And so a lot of times, especially if I go into a company and propose, I'm going with number. Because when a leader is going to invest in you, they don't really care about so much the people. They're just like, okay, what are the numbers?
It's the
And if
bottom
I
line.
say, hey, on the bottom line, you are losing $70,000 every time you turn over an employee. If you think about health insurance, onboarding, learning and development,
Recruiting, the cost of recruiting.
the more people leave out your door, and not to mention who's on your learning and development team. That's all of your institutional knowledge. The more that walks in the door, that destroys your onboarding. And so my whole stick is to actually deal with this right at the root. And it's in the subconscious mind. So for leaders, said leader, why are you managing up and down the way you do? What's going on in your belief system? You know, not some COVID coach is going to say, hey, I just want you to go to the beach and drink sweet pineapple and get fanned with a leaf. That's not going to fix a damn thing. Excuse
Nope.
my language.
Time off is not going to fix burnout.
No. If anything, it may increase your stress.
It is, because you're thinking about not being at work, and you're thinking about, what am I missing? Am I thinking about, Susan coming up my ass and taking my job from me, right?
That's it. And so if your mind is constantly running at breakneck speed, we have to actually slow your mind and your subconscious mind down. We're not going to even deal with your behavior. I'm trained in CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy is effective to an extent, but we deal with the belief that informs your behavior. That's the secret sauce.
I see this firsthand too, and I really think email is a terrible culprit for this. I have friends. I'm going to keep this generic here. I have friends that will literally be glued to their phone, and I've been doing it too also, but I'm in a little different place as a solo business owner. Sometimes I need to reply real time because I'm moving, scheduling, and candidates and everything. But I have friends that will be emailing all night long, and like they're not separating. They're not having the downtime. They're not separating church and state, right? They're not having that separation, and they do it to themselves because you set a precedent early on in your job. Listen, emergencies aside, there's everyday communications that could wait till the morning. And it starts with leadership too, setting those expectations. I know some great leaders that will, two things. A perfect example. We're in the car the other night with our friend that has a very sizable law firm. And my wife asked him, she's like, hey, Mike, do you stop at a certain time of day? He goes, by 6 o'clock, unless it's mission critical, I am not emailing anybody, and I don't expect anyone in my company to email me. And he set that tone early on. And this is a law firm. Things are urgent and timely.
Right.
So unless it's mission critical, it could wait till the morning. He set the tone within his firm to say, this is how we operate. Let people have their downtime. That's where it starts.
And if you think about right there setting that type of precedent, I can tell you what he has. He has a sustainable workforce.
He does.
If you think about the majority of HR and the majority of tech, these are the primary clients that deal with me outside of business owners and individual contributors. These are not sustainable workforces because it's like we always want you available. I call it the Slack culture.
Always on.
Green light on. Who cares if the green light's not on? It's 7:30 p.m. I'm eating dinner with my family.
It's 10:15 on a Sunday morning. Right? Like separate. Like, what is happening on a Sunday? Why do you as a manager, like, oh, I just had a thought I needed to get out. You ever see one of those emails come in over the weekend? Because now all I'm doing as an employee is thinking about that thought for the rest of the weekend. You know what, guys? On almost every single email platform, here's a pro tip for anyone who does not know this. Every single platform out there, email platform, has a scheduling tool. Get your thought down, schedule it for Monday morning. Spare your employees that mental strain.
Yeah, I had the funny thing you should talk about that is actually I had a couple of clients, one who was working for Amazon at the time. And of course, we both know Amazon very well. And I mean, they were a senior leader. They had a staff of 200. So you can imagine the amount of stress that they were under to perform for their higher ups. And we actually got them to the place, using some specific root cause techniques where it's like, we're pulling you away from Slack because this is affecting your productivity. And actually you're being productive, but you're not being efficient. Efficient people get done in 4 hours, where productive people get done in 9 hours. But when you work through the root cause, and part of the root cause is that they were an older sibling. And so they got used to being the one who protects, who answers, who is always on the front lines. We actually had to deal with that. So yeah, I'm going to actually get very personal. I got to deal with the childhood you, because a lot of times the way we're showing up in these workplaces, in our careers, in our business, has to do with who we are as little children. Imagine you going down the street and you see a Mack truck and you see a 12-year-old driving that. You'll get some fear in your heart because it's like, okay, they can swerve out of control. We're all Mack trucks if you think about it. Excuse me, ladies. I know that may not sound very friendly, but we have little kids who are our drivers because we have not dealt with what is going on in our subconscious mind. No matter what coaching you may go through, your belief will always inform how you behave, and you have to deal with your subconscious belief. You got to go there.
Jeez. So let's riff on that for a little bit. And I want to talk about vulnerability, which one side of vulnerability, I am so happy in the last, I'm going to call it the last decade, how from a professional executive level, we've embraced that it's okay to be vulnerable. And when I say vulnerability, I mean true vulnerability, not manufactured optics of like this kind of like, hey, I want everyone to think I'm vulnerable, but I'm really not. So I'm going to put some bullshit out there. But like real true vulnerability, because the idea is if you're an executive that you need to always be stoic and you need to be strong and you need to not show any weakness there and you're the captain of the ship. And to some extent, yes, you want to have faith in the captain of your ship, but to show true vulnerability shows that you're human and you're fallible and that you could improve upon, your weaknesses there too and be able to share also. So part of me is very pleased that we've gotten to this point of vulnerability, but it's still so misunderstood in executive circles. Why is that?
I think because even those executive circles, there's still a stigma that calls for the fakeness, if I can just put it really plainly.
Please.
And one reason why I even did the post I did a couple of days ago was just like, you can be crushed on the outside, much like I was, but dying on the inside. And if you make yourself vulnerable, there's a fear of like, well, if I put this out there, not what will people think, what will be the repercussion? And if you think about even us as childhood people, like, I think about how you got on here before we started the podcast and you were talking about your relationship with your son. He's developing a healthy father-son relationship where there is a respect for you, but not an unhealthy fear of like, man, if I step out of line, I might get the crap slapped out of me.
I'll bust his
I
ass.
had a traumatic childhood. And so if you think about even some of these execs, man, I can't, for reasons of confidentiality, put anything out there, but
yeah, please.
Your blue or white collar worker is not externally what they appear to be. And so even those things, those childhood narratives inform who they are as adults.
That's
and
deep.
So when it comes to making oneself vulnerable, it's just like, I've made myself vulnerable before as a little boy, a little girl, and this was a repercussion. I got somebody went upside my head, will go out of its way to protect you. Let me tell you something about DC. I'm always in the forest. You used to do those walk through the woods. The snakes here, they go away from you. They don't come to you. But if I see a snake coiled up, I'm going to naturally capitulate because I don't want to get bitten.
Right.
So if we sense any type of danger or perceived danger or projected danger, we will then back up off of it. And so we won't make ourselves vulnerable because we're like, there's a repercussion to that. And so we rather hold stuff in and keep it bottled up, in which we know, unfortunately, in some cases, with people who are very higher on the totem pole can equal suicide, equal self-deleting, or equal making decisions, equal addictions or adulterous affairs. Or, I'm going there because it's like, this is the side of LinkedIn you don't see.
Escapism too. Yeah.
Escapism. Yeah. Anytime there's pain, we need to be comforted. And so one thing in Listen and Speak is we provide a safe place for executives. We go beyond the surface level networking and we get to the root because you have to address it.
How do you work with your clients on balancing strength and transparency?
Good question. I call it the Christ model. And of course, I have clients that are
Christ
atheist,
an acronym?
agnostic, Muslim, Buddhist, you name it. I have clients across the gamut of faith or non-faith. I call it the Christ model because I love, whether you believe him or not, read the book, you'll see it for yourself. It wasn't anywhere where Christ went where thousands of people didn't know who he was. However, out of that 1,000, he had 12 disciples. Even out of that 12, he only dealt closely with 3, Peter, James, and John.
That was the inner
Mary,
circle.
Martha, Lazarus, throw his mother in there, Nicodemus for a good measure. That's 9 people out of thousands. And so this is Christ.
That's his executive board. Yeah,
that's his executive board. So even somebody at that stature, and of course we know even historically a man named Jesus of Nazareth did exist, did not deal with everybody that knew him. And so you have to have an executive board of people that understand and know you and are worthy of you in that way. And I would say have an executive coach, therapist, counselor, advisor, whatever role you want them to play, that you can have that level of transparency and air those things out and process them. And so that's my answer to your question is like, you have to have that around you. Each one of us has to have that, because if you can't take all that someplace, you're going to be in a very sad state of affairs. And your company, your business, and your career always grows to the degree that you do.
I love that, man. Let's take a left turn here. Let's talk about AI. Is AI creating more stress or more solutions in the workplace as far as culture, burnout? What's happening here? I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, but let's get back to it.
I think it depends on one, the company. It depends on the person that's handling it. I think AI is amazing, but I would say for a company that's trying to outpace another company, or an individual who does not know how to use their brain, I always say AI should be the exoskeleton that you put meat and muscle on. If you are dependent on this thing, and one, listen, for everybody, just to as an aside on the dark web, if you don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to use your brain, the dark web will expose who you are. And you can lose your job, your career, and your business because people can find out if everything you're putting out there is primarily AI. Just as an aside, so you know.
Here's how I synthesize that: use AI as a tool and not a crutch.
Come on now. But I would say for the workplace, and I would for everyone who's listening, market yourself in a way where AI cannot take your job because
Make
it's
yourself
still,
invaluable.
yeah, as amazing as it is still limited in synthesizing information. It does not have a human soul.
Have you seen AI used in good ways to support mental health?
I have. I think when it comes to AI, like team building, it can it's limited, but it has a way of kind of synthesizing personalities. Okay, if you think about teams that really crush it, it's teams where a person is placed where they thrive. So let's just say I got a booming extrovert and I got a person who really rather not be around people. You think I'm going to put that extrovert on spreadsheets and the person who doesn't want to talk to people on talent acquisition? No, I want my talker out there.
Yeah.
I want them bringing people in the organization. And when it comes to systems and processes and organizing things, I want my introvert. You got a
Mm.
lot of teams that have people out of place because it's like we hired you for this, but it's like that's not really what that person's good at. So there's some good AI tools that can synthesize like with the Clifton strengths, like this is
Right.
where this person thrives.
And
Put them where they thrive.
and just to kind of build on that a little bit too, and it's separate but related to, I have a lot of conversations, obviously, with candidates too, and not every, companies need to find better ways to promote people than giving them a manager title or have them manage people, because not everybody's meant to be a people leader. Not everyone can be a people leader. So find other ways. There's some folks out there that just want to be individual contributors. They're really good at what they do. They're subject matter experts. They contribute vastly to their organization. But for some reason, when you promote someone, automatically they have people underneath them and they have to be a people leader. And that detracts from what their core competencies are, their core skills, and their overall performance erodes. Right. So you need to be, as a people leader, you need to understand those strengths and weaknesses. And you say too, some people are introverts, some are extroverts, and an introvert could be a good people manager too. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is listening when someone says, I don't want to manage people, it doesn't mean they're not a good performer.
Adam, do you in my head walking around? I
Sometimes.
deal primarily outside of senior leaders and VPs. I deal primarily with middleman. I love my middle managers. They get hell from the top and the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like a lot of them didn't want to be middle managers. It's just like
No.
imagine managing someone who you were going happy hour with. It's like, where do you draw that boundary line? And how do you then, they're doing their one-on-ones with you, but you guys actually, your kids play together. It kind of creates a strange dynamic and it disrupts a lot. And so a lot of these people just want to be SMEs, just want to be a subject matter expert.
Yeah, let me
in their
work.
little cubicle corner office. And like, I can really rock this, but it's like, in order to get promoted, you got to have direct reports. And everyone isn't built for that. And it's time for organizations to actually stop shooting themselves in the foot, because that's where I think a lot of the quiet quitting during 2020 and 2021 happened, where people were like, this is really not what I wanted to do. And this is destroying my morale. I think we think as fellas or ladies, you come through the door with a pair of loafers or heels on, you turn into this booming professional. You still are who you are.
Yeah.
You bring yourself, your belief, your family history, your psychology, your addictions, your biases. You bring all of those things with you. And those things need to be dealt with. And that's why Listen and Speak exists.
I love it, man. That's such a strong mission. So here we go. We're going to bring it home here. If you could redesign corporate culture from scratch, what's your starting point? What's the first thing you're doing?
The first thing I'm doing is not starting. A lot of times I think people start from the bottom. I'm starting with the leaders. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to be a really controversial, but hang with me. We see a lot of leadership and EQ quotes, and those things go viral all over LinkedIn. But you ever thought to yourself, this leader is a human being? They have their own worries, cares, fears, and insecurities. I'm starting with the leader because Thrive culture is going to start with them. When they believe it, the systems and processes will be laid out in HR to carry it out. We can advocate from the bottom all we want to, but it's like, you can believe it, but I need the leader to believe it. And I need to actually deal with them. I need to deal with their childhood. I need to deal with who they are as a man or a woman. I need to deal with who they are culturally. I need to deal with who they are psychosomatically. Let's deal with them. Because when they see it, when they catch the vision, that's when you have a sustainable workforce.
Ooh, let's finish up deep here. What have you learned about yourself through your journey of coaching others?
Oh my goodness. I've learned one that, yeah, obviously I'm a great listener. I have to be for the nature of what I do. I've learned the importance of demonstrating to my clients offline what I preach online. Because the thing is, even when they're not around you, they're still watching you. They're like, okay, when you're taking, like, I typically will work. I start off with a client for 90 days because it takes 90 days to initially change the
Yeah.
neuroplasticity of our
It
brain.
doesn't happen overnight. You can't just
No,
come in and do a half-hour coaching and know everything about me.
no, no.
All right,
that,
thought
that,
so.
that's bull crap. And the whole 21 days to good habits is also bull crap. No scientific backing for that. But I tell each of my clients, even in the consultation, this is probably going to be 14 or 15 weeks because at some point I want you to go on vacation and I
Mhm.
want me to go on vacation. And also, 60% of my clients are women. At some point, you're going to end up in the emergency room with a 4-year-old with a bruised knee or some kind of
Yeah.
craziness. It's just life's going to life. You know what I'm
Life
saying?
is gonna life.
And so I've learned also, because of course, a lot of us are very system and process oriented, keep the human component intact. One, you get great retention that way. And two, you get great results that way.
Fascinating. Let's bring it home here. What's keeping you up at night these days, Jamal? Besides your 4:30 a.m. wake up call. Jeez, God bless.
To be honest,
You have kids. You have kids. You have kids.
not yet, bro. Not
Yeah,
yet.
that's why you're getting up at 4:30 and hitting the gym and doing what you got to do, man. I get every ounce of sleep. My kid goes to sleep at 9. I'm like, shit, I got to watch a little TV and decompress for a little bit. Next thing I know, it's 12. I'm falling asleep, and I'm like, I need to get at least 6 or 7 hours of sleep. No way I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning, unless it's
Adam's
for a
got to be one
flight.
of the realest.
Unless it's for a
Between you and
flight.
Joe, I don't know who's more raw.
Yeah.
But what's keeping me up, man? Like, I would say about 9, 10 months from now, planning a conference. Never done that before. Not going to someone else's conference, like, Podfest or
Yeah.
Podcast Movement or this, that, and other, but actually planning a
That's
conference is
awesome.
like, okay, how do I do this? How do I plan an actual like wellness conference and bring in some of the best speakers and getting sponsorships and this, that, and the fourth? And the beauty of being a podcast host that has a top ranked podcast is that you can connect with so many great people in the industry and make an organic connection, just like you and I made an organic
Yeah,
connection.
man.
This wasn't forced. You know what I'm
No.
saying?
It
So
happened when it
I think
happened. It
that's what-
happened when you're here right now because it happened at the right time and place. I'm like, let's do it. Overdue.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man.
So
Yeah, but
those
you're
are
gonna
the
get
things
it.
that keep
You're
me
gonna
up at
crush
night.
it. You're a smart dude, and you also know, which is important, when to ask for help on things you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and to have the mental fortitude and the confidence to say, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. Who could help me? How do I find someone to help me?" And know those people are gonna reach out there. So, okay, let's close this jammy out here. What is the single greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on daily?
Ooh. I'm gonna put it this way. So obviously we have a limited time on this planet. Um, maybe 90, 95 years at the most. If there was an epithet on my grave, it would say he did what he could. Do what you can. You, as a man or a woman, cannot do everything. Especially for my I've had military people who are my clients, you faith-based people, very service-oriented. Do what you can. It's okay to say no because it gives you the capacity to say yes to where you can really thrive and really shine. You cannot say yes to everything. Moms, or you always have to be on or feel that pressure, you cannot always be on. Do what you can. So that's one of the things that really stick to me and that really have gone into me. I
Power of
ran a
no.
breakneck speed since I was a child for everything and everybody. Now I do what I work. I bust my tail. I work hard, but I do what I can.
Slow it down, folks. The power of no. And last but not least, Jahmaal Marshall. You work with a lot of extremely successful people. So you have this aura of and vision of what success looks like, what it sounds like, what it manifests, but also in reality what it is. But Jahmaal Marshall, at this stage of your life, at 40 years old, how do you define success?
Man, the success is who I am offline. We both have talked and riffed and ragged on the online world. Anyone can come on crushing it every day, but does my family believe? I love the fact that when my family, when they see me when I come offline, they say you're the same person. Or when somebody meets me, we've had a lot of meetups when they say you're the same person offline that you are online. Like, to me, that is success. To me, success is whatever you believe. Of course, it's no mistake. I'm a Christian. being unashamed of what you believe, standing 10 toes down on what you believe, but also listening to a person and what they believe and learning about them. I have 70% of my clients don't believe what I believe, but they're willing to receive from me because I try to live what I believe. So that's success to me, not even when you experience a lot of different success or financial success, not being a jerk, being a decent human being. That's success to me.
Love it. Love that take. Often success is being able to be your true authentic self all the time. Right? Having that confidence, having the ability to talk the talk and walk the walk and practice what you preach. And that's what I get out of this conversation. Anyone listening out there, you've only had 54 minutes with Jamal. But if you're interested, please check out more. ListenThenSpeak.com. He's happy to talk to you. He's happy to talk to your organization. He's happy to come talk to your people. But the first step is reaching out. And I urge anyone out there, this guy's the real deal. I've known him for a long time. He practices what he preaches. Jahmaal Marshall, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Where else can folks connect with you? Where could they learn more?
The easiest way is to go to my website, LinkedIn. I'm the only Jahmaal Marshall that spells my name this way on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has horrible search, but I'm the easiest.
JAHMAAL, Marshall with 2 L's at the end. There you go.
Connect with me there. Send a request, send a DM or whatever like that. I'd love to have a conversation. I'm very active on LinkedIn and on my website. And the podcast itself is just called Listen and Speak. You will see a very orange meme come up in my likeness. And so that's another way to listen in and find out what the latest, greatest is of what we're doing.
I love this, man. Great chat. I appreciate you. And everyone listening out there, thank you for joining us on the podcast. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Head over to our YouTube channel, /thepodcast. I'm trying to hype that up, get some more content out there. Remember, folks, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.